Hey, folks, welcome to the Knock and Talk Show. This is episode number 13, and I, of course, am your host, Patrick Faulkner. And this week's guest is Matthew Griffin, aka Griff, owner of Combat Flipflops and combat veteran himself. And we're going to be discussing three-man slingshots, as well as dump trucks full of sledgehammers and the atomic sit-up. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Knock and Talk Show. I am your host, Patrick Faulkner, and this is episode number 12. Today we have Griff with us, military veteran and small business owner, owner of the most comfortable flip-flops that I have ever worn, and I'll let him talk to you a little bit about that later on. But Griff, welcome to the show, brother. I'm so glad to have you.
I'm honored to be here. I'm a little upset though. I'm number 12. I would really like to have been unlucky number 13. You know, like it did start out that way this morning.
It really
had plenty
did.
of our challenges.
Yeah, it really did. And I may, you know what? I may kick this back one week and make this episode number 13. I think you're right.
Yeah, I like 13.
Yeah, 13 is good. So, folks, we had first StreamYard went down, and then Zoom wouldn't cooperate as Plan B, and then the gods were smiling upon us, and StreamYard came back, and here we are. So yeah, episode 13. I like that.
Right on.
Yeah, I think.
So how do you want to start this off? You want to start this off with the joke that we were cracking back and forth? Did you even recall it that quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Let's see. So there's a plumber, an electrician, and a computer software engineer all in a car.
Yep. And
the car doesn't start. So the electrician said, "Oh, it must be the starter," and the plumber says, "No, it's the fuel pump." And the software engineer says, it's just broken. Why don't we get out and get back in and see if it starts?" Oh wait, I actually have one of those. Where's it at? There we go. Yeah, thanks, folks. I'm here all week. Make sure you tip your waitress. So Griff, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and about your background?
So I'm an Iowa native. I grew up a little eastern Iowa, a little farm town. Went to West Point in 1997 because my parents were like, "You're either going to join the Army or get a scholarship." So I did both.
Wow.
Went to West Point, United States Military Academy in 1997. Graduated in 2001. And oddly enough, our class it's weird. The last class this happened to was 1965, the class that went to Vietnam. But on our reception day, it literally biblical storm, lightning hitting trees, falling down. Parents are scattering everywhere. Hats are blowing all across the parade field. And The omen was that's the last class that happened to was 1965. And then they went to Vietnam, and everybody, throughout our time at the academy says, "Yeah, you guys are going to war." And lo and behold, 4 months later, September 11th happens. And next thing you know, we're going to war. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was an artillery guy. I like the term king of battle, versus queen of battle, the infantry. So I was an artillery guy. I like jumping out of airplanes. Wow. And when I was at officer basic course when September 11th happened, and I was pretty resolved to going into special operations, but that solidified it. So I went through pre-ranger training. We whittled down from 75 guys in our pre-ranger class, and I think 6 of us actually made it through ranger school, and then 4 of us actually ended up going to the Ranger Regiment as fire support officers. So if those who aren't familiar with the Ranger Regiment, it is the U.S. military's sharpest blunt object. If U.S. has got a problem with you, like they're going to send the Rangers, and you just ain't going to be a problem anymore.
Okay.
There's a really great like Instagram rant some guys got out there anywhere. It describes the Ranger Regiment, but everybody talks about Navy SEALs, and I say the SEALs are awesome. I know a lot of them, they're really good, but they're like a surgeon's roll of tools. very specific jobs, really
Right.
clean worwork. But Rangers are like a dump truck full of sledgehammers. And I just
I love
liked that. Yeah, I like that mentality of, just the meat eating, lead slinging, weightlifting, just grunts. And I loved it. And then I got there in 2003, ended up doing 3 tours in Afghanistan and then 1 in Iraq. And then for an artillery guy, you either go back to the artillery, pull string, go boom, which just wasn't my speed. It's not what I saw myself doing.
Okay.
Or you branch transfer to the infantry to be a company commander with the hopes of going back to the regiment, or you go special forces, Green Berets. So you go through selection class. And at this time I'd gotten married, had 2 small kids, and wanted to have a family. So I got out in 2006, did a couple of random jobs, building houses, doing some stuff. And then I ended up doing medical sales for a company called Remote Medical International. And long story short, I ended up in a combat boot factory in Kabul, Afghanistan, and decided it was a really great idea to make flip-flops in a combat boot factory in Afghanistan and put all of my life savings and all of my credit behind it, and then failed miserably through the next few years trying this wild idea, which ended up taking off. And now we have Combat Flip-Flops, and we're a mission-based brand. And for the past 10 years, we've been making stuff in war zones and using our profits to put little girls to school in Afghanistan, clear landmines, and help veterans at home. And
That's awesome.
That's been it. I'm a single dad of 2 daughters. I like to lift weights and shoot guns and do everything else guys like to do. So that's just what I do on a daily basis.
Well, I love all of the descriptions of your time in the Ranger Corps. I've never heard any of those before. All I've ever heard is Rangers lead the way.
All the
I'm
way.
an Air Force guy, so I just sort of sit back and sort of watch all of the Billy Badasses. I pulled parts out of airplanes and put new parts back in. So none of those dump trucks full of sledgehammers. I was the screwdriver. Moving the speed handle actually is what we use. But so
what aircraft did you work on?
F-16s.
Ooh, the Vipers.
I was the attack control specialist in the avionics section. So, but I did want to give a quick plug to Combat Flip-Flops. I am a lifelong customer of Combat Flip-Flops. I've had these since the spring, and I have worn them every day almost, unless there was a cause to wear something a little more fashion friendly for family events or things like that. But yeah, I love them. So Combat Flip-Flops, folks, check them out. They're awesome.
And I'll give a couple more plugs, but basically we don't make shit that sucks. We're Army Rangers. We're on our feet all the time. We like to be in flip-flops and make good gear and good apparel. And there's nothing worse than getting a pair of flip-flops or, piece of footwear that fails on you. Mm-hmm. And, we have a lifetime warranty behind our product. We're a super small business. We're only 5 people deep. So a lot of people think, oh yeah, you're a big company. Yeah, we got a sexy website, but we're a small family-owned business, but we really do have the best customer service. And if something goes wrong with your footwear, because nobody's perfect, hit us up. I guarantee Jill, as our customer service manager, we say she puts the ill in Jill, and she'll take care of you right quick.
Oh, she did. Yeah. So she actually, I sent in a question about the flip-flops, and I got a direct text message from her. Now, I assume it may be, a company phone, but I mean, she sent me a text message. I thought that was awesome that a real live person, not a bot, not somebody in Pakistan or India or California, sent me a message. It was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, she's awesome. Her son actually is our media manager as well.
Oh, cool.
So it's a real family. We all live within a few blocks of one another, and our office is right downtown as well. And she was a elementary school secretary, and we needed. This is I'll cut to the chase here, but we were on Shark Tank. So yes. we were about to have the largest wave of business a small business in America could have. And I called a buddy of mine who's scaled a couple of companies, like, what do you scale? And he's like, scale your customer service. And so I actually, she was at a stop sign, and I ran her down. Like, behind, honking my horn at her, chasing her, driving wildly through an intersection. I said, "Hey, we're a bunch of large children. I know you have experience managing a bunch of children, so you need to come manage us and be our customer service manager." And so awesome. She's been spectacular. She's amazing.
That's awesome. Well, for Jill, hi, thanks for helping put this together, because she actually was the one that put us in contact with each other. So thanks, Jill. I appreciate it. As you know, the story, the show is all about funny stories, and the times in service where you can't believe what you just saw, or how in the world did that happen. So looking back to your West Point days, while you're going through the academy, what were some of the shenanigans that you were involved in with maybe some of the other West Pointers?
I think the one that like stands out in my mind is, so term end examinations, it's, at the end of the term. So everybody's studying for the tests. It's really stressful. You get people playing naked basketball out in the courts, or they used to before they made that illegal. People just get stressed out and they just do weird stuff. And you hear naked man, and somebody goes running through the quad, and everybody's poking out their window and throwing stuff at them. I remember one time I saw like a burning printer come flying out of a window and impacting the ground. But it was my junior year, and I was a first sergeant. So I was the head junior in charge of my company. And I'm sitting there just studying away, doing my thing, being diligent. And all of a sudden you hear breaking glass in the room next to me. I just hear swearing and cursing. I'm like, so I poke out, I run over there, and the guy next to me, his window has been busted through, and I see like the remains of a freaking orange in the room. Like, what the hell? And so I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, we're peeling glass out of him and everything else. Luckily, nobody got hurt.
Okay.
And I poke my head out the window, and I see probably about 50 or 60 oranges, like in a pattern, right? So the dispersion pattern it's like, oh, okay. So I'm like looking across the quad, and the next building that would have been able to shoot it at us was about, 100 yards away. I'm like, somebody's got a 3-man slingshot with an orange, and they're hucking it out their windows. And I know, with a little bit of experience shooting 3-man slingshots, they didn't make it out that window the first time. So I was into artillery at the time. So when an artillery shell comes in, based on the blast pattern, you can actually go to an artillery hole, look at it, throw your compass on it the other direction, and then you can send a report. You're like, hey, somebody's shooting artillery at us somewhere along this line. So that way you can fly a plane or a drone to go find their artillery and go take it out. So I'm like, okay. So I go trotting down, I go across to that building, and then I just start going room by room up along that line. And all of a sudden I poke into this room with 3 plebes in it, 3 freshmen. And I knock on the door, and they're all studying, and I open the door. Hey guys, what's going on? And they started looking really nervous. It's like, huh. So I walk over to their window, and smells like oranges. And they're like, oh my God, he found me. He found us out. And I'm like, all right. And I thought it was clever, right? Everybody's stressed out. They're having a good time. They're freshmen. I could report them to their change of command, but I'm like, nah, you guys are going to come clean up, and you're going to make our beds for the next couple of weeks. So I'll expect you guys in my room before formation every morning. We're going to keep you guys out of trouble. And they were thankful for that. And you got to build a relationship with some guys doing some stupid things. But when people are doing dumb stuff out of fun, sometimes they really don't think through it, especially guys. And I just thought it was a good way to, a good way to, build some relationship, keep some kids out of trouble, and not have them like walking, because what they do is they make you walking hours. So in the same room, so in the same quad, the pavement area where they were shooting their artillery oranges across is the square where everybody walks. Say on Saturdays, you'd have to get up early in the morning, throw on your uniform, grab your rifle, and just walk back and forth for 8 hours.
That sounds
like miserable. You don't learn anything from that. They're going to learn more from making my bed than walking back and forth with hours. At least I get something out of it.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that was a very clever plan B.
Oh man, I lost audio. Hold on for 1 second. I got you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, cool. My headphones died. I don't know what happened.
Oh, well, episode 13 continues.
Episode 13 continues. Lucky number 13.
Well, I think that was a clever form of punishment. where everybody made out, especially you not having to make your beds.
Yeah. It's fun. People do dumb stuff. It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And like there's other things too where, go Army beat Navy week, we'll have transfer students and standard military stuff where the guys in class and they'll take his room out and they'll set it up perfectly on the roof, or you'll have Navy instructors. And this is my favorite one where you take those little paper Dixie cups, the ones where you pour a thing of water in them and you try to grab them from the side and they fall apart.
Yeah.
About 2,000 of those and a little plant water, the little things where you water plants. And then you stack those paper cups in the room across the floor. And then you just fill those things up with a little water jug. And so now they've got an entire office where you have to like pick up those little crappy paper cups and pour them out into a garbage can. Go dump them in the toilet. It's going to take you hours to get that done. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So take note, kids.
Yeah. I'm writing that down on my Palm Pilot. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, speaking of go Army beat Navy, congrats this year.
I think we beat Air Force last week, but Navy's coming up. The next month, 2 weeks. It's going to be here pretty soon. Yeah, we were last year's game, which was pretty fun. It was a good time. Got stupidly drunk with the guys from Go Ruck.
Yeah,
that was a good time. And wandered around Philadelphia. Made it back safely.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. My son is currently in basic.
What did he sign up for?
Something to do with computers. 25 Bravo, I believe. It's not. I don't know. Something to do with cyber warfare and computers. I don't know.
Yeah, cyber's big right now.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have a computer for the foreseeable future, so it makes sense, and it's something he can do when he gets out. Unlike my choice of military careers, there weren't that many attack control systems on Delta Airlines. So I didn't think that went through.
Yeah, there's not too many guys shooting 55-pound rounds, 20 miles through the desert, for a commercial living.
Sure.
Or dropping bombs off aircraft. So I feel you on that one.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the shenanigans there with the 3-man slingshot. When you were downrange overseas, trying to blow off steam, as we did. I went on 2 deployments. I won't call them. Well, I guess more TDYs, not really deployments. But I went to the desert twice, and we did some fun things. What was in your memory recalling what stupidest, funniest thing that happened while downrange?
So I'm an officer, right? Which is my dirty little secret. Not a lot of people know that about me because I always tried to be the best, worst officer. It's just, you're supposed to be there to support your guys, take top cover. And it was my first deployment. And it was a really rough deployment. It was called Operation Winter Strike. And we were in eastern Afghanistan against the Pak border and all the mountains. And we were going to 10,000 feet plus base elevation villages and, routing these Al-Qaeda fighters taking their winter vacations, right? Because they didn't think Americans would come because their helicopters would have a hard time getting there. The roads sucked. Right. But these guys would walk in and they would hang out all winter. So we were denying them that fight. So we did a couple really snowy, higher altitude valleys first. And then we came down and we went to a lower altitude valley. It was still cold, but it wasn't snowy.
Okay.
And this is probably 2 months in. And we were on, week and a half long patrol. So everybody stacks their batteries. Our backpacks are really big. And so one morning I'm in the hooch and I grab my comms chief, my FO. I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to go take a dump. Give me your batteries. I'm going to go bury them. So I'll dig a hole, poop. I'll throw the batteries in and then we'll call it good. Okay. And I come back and that was the morning we were actually heading out of the valley. So we had about a 10-mile hike down out of this valley back to where the trucks could pick us up and get back to the fob and then go home. And I throw on my rucksack and I'm like, by then you're just suffering and it really doesn't matter. But man, it should be lighter. It really should be lighter. It's I don't say anything. I didn't really notice too bad. So we walk all the way down. We do this combat patrol. We go through a couple different villages and then we get down to the trucks and, the sun's going down and we're driving the trucks out at night. So obviously we're going to throw on our Gore-Tex and stay a little bit, because we didn't have armored vehicles at the time. We had gun trucks, which were, higher horsepower, up like Humvees,
Okay.
but they didn't have tops on them. They had roll cages with machine guns everywhere, so they looked like porcupines rolling down the road.
Okay.
And I throw my rucksack, at the foot of my area, and I start pulling out all my stuff to go grab my Gore-Tex, and I pull my Gore-Tex jacket out, and there's this big flat 20-pound rock that's in my rucksack, just like perfectly placed in there. And it says, congratulations, Lieutenant Griffin, welcome to the crew, Penn Valley, Goat Hut Hill. Like the guys had made this cool rock, and that thing still sits in my office and my desk. I was never able to get rid of it. And this stupid fucking thing, it was then when I was trying to leave country, you go through customs, right? So they're making sure the guys aren't smuggling out guns or drugs or everything else. And I've got this rock, right? Just a rock that I want to take back from Afghanistan. And so we've got all of our stuff laid out there. And then the Air Force customs guy comes by. He's like, oh, you can't take that rock back. It's for contamination or whatever. And I'm like, I can't take a rock back from Afghanistan. Are you fucking kidding me? You guys are going down to the market and buying rugs and lapis and all the cool shit and mailing it all back. I want a fucking rock. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll get rid of it. Whatever. He turns around and throw that thing right in my rucksack. He's like, where's that rock? I was like, man, I threw it over the fence. It's over there.
Over there.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that probably shocked me the most was, we were in this one fob, it's fob blessing now, because we lost Jay in on the way to that fob, but we were there, and we were, doing some helicopter assaults out of there, and we have our interpreter. And this is my first time in Afghanistan, and this is still really early on in the war. So they were grabbing anybody who would be an interpreter who could speak English. And so we had this guy, Rockmed, and I still wasn't little aware of Afghan culture. And so the sun's going down, we're doing pre-mission planning, and the CO looks at me and says, hey, go get Rockmed, the interpreter. And meanwhile, we're all sleeping out in the open, freezing. And the interpreters had somehow figured out a way to get this room in this house that was like 150 yards down the hill. So I go trotting on down there, and we're freezing outside. I open the door. It's like a sauna in there, and everybody's in their underwear. They're all cuddled together. And I'm like, and there's like 10 or 15 interpreters in there. Like, what the hell is going on? I'm just shocked. I'm this 24-year-old, kid getting ready to go on a combat mission. And I just opened the door to like the International Mail Catalog, right? I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, Rockmed. And I see this head poke up. I'm like, hey man, we got to go. It's like time to roll, man. Helicopters are coming. He's like, I just need 5 more minutes. And I'm like, I grab a handful of freaking rocks, like pebbles, like inch round. And I just like huck them in there at him, and like all you hear is all these like 10 or 15 dudes like yelling and screaming. I'm like, we're going now. Meanwhile, he's like pulling his pants on and doing everything. Let's get out of here. Like I can't unsear that memory from my mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, 5 more minutes, please, Mom. 5 minutes.
5 minutes is all I need. 5 minutes, just a little bit more. I'm almost there.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that would. I think I'd be scarred too.
Yeah, it was totally unexpected.
Yeah. So, one of the trips I took to the sandbox was to Jordan. And, I was, I think, 21, and before the deployment, you get the pre-deployment briefing where either CIA or OSS comes in, sits down, and gives you a whole bunch of pieces of paper and death by PowerPoint, do's, don'ts, customs, religion, all this stuff, so that you don't offend anybody while we're over there and cause an international incident. So we were told, don't look at the women in the face, and don't talk to them, and cross to the other side of the street just to prevent it. We get to Jordan. And
it's Jordan. Jordan's amazing.
Yeah, Jordan was awesome. But the women there were wearing less clothes than the American women did on college campuses. I mean, it was a very westernized city, and they were very forward talking to us and wanting to go sit at a bar and drink. And we were like, no, yes,
Yeah, that it
no.
makes you question, the
Yeah.
agency and all those OSS and those State Department briefs, and the way that it described Jordan to people. It's Western. It's beautiful. It's actually one of my favorite places to go. I really enjoy Jordan. But the women there,
Amman was beautiful. I mean, it had marble sidewalks and fountains on almost every corner, and the shopping district was like you were walking in New York City.
And I described the women there as biblical hot.
Yes.
They are beautiful.
Yes.
Like absolutely stunning, sand-colored eyes, very intelligent, speak better English than most Americans. It's a really cool place. I really enjoy it. And the coolest part about it is, you're just driving through, and then all of a sudden, bam, there's a 2,000-year-old Colosseum right there. And you're like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, that was, built by the Romans. Like, what do they do there? Oh yeah, there's a concert tonight. You want to go? And so here you are sitting in a 2,000-year-old Roman Colosseum in the middle of Amman, listening to a modern concert. It's pretty cool. It's a really rad spot. I recommend everybody go there.
We didn't get to do any of those cool things. We got, I think, 8 hours in Amman on an MWR trip, and
forced fun.
It was forced fun, yeah. But we did get to go to Petra, and that was amazing. We got a picture of me standing on that front ledge, and the thing is huge. Like
the treasury,
little bitty dot. The thing is just a marvel.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people know it from Indiana Jones, but it doesn't provide the scale of that place. It is massive. And when you're walking down from the area and they have the walls that go up like 100 feet, and then you see how the walls were designed to catch rain and then run down in, and they had a little aquifer. So the water would run down the walls and they catch into a little trough and then run, a quarter mile down into these aquifers that were in the desert. And you're like, how did these people figure this out?
Yeah.
Thousands of years ago.
So, it was definitely mind blowing. Because I have a hard time using toothpicks to build a bridge for like a high school assignment. I can't imagine coming up with, I didn't pay attention in geometry or physics, so maybe that's the reason. But but the thing was just amazing. I wish I could go back, take my family and go back, but I don't know that it's that safe these days.
Yeah, I haven't been there since the Syrian refugee crisis, and I've heard it's gone a little bit downhill since. But
that's unfortunate because there was also a Roman ruined city that we got to go to as part of that day, that MWR tour. And there was a church, John the Baptist Church. I can only assume it was named that because John the Baptist was there. And I thought that was really cool that I was standing in a place that was built in that time frame.
Was it the Citadel? Did you go there? Yeah.
Maybe.
So there's this big hilltop, which they call the Citadel, and the Citadel's obviously it's like a military fort. And when you go there, you see all the columns and everything else that are there, and you're like, okay, this column was installed by the Greeks, right? And very Greek architecture. And then you walk 100 yards to the right, and you're like, okay, this was the Christians who came through. And then you walk another 100 yards through, and you go, here's the Islamic mosque. But what you don't see is the fact that the Christians tore down the Greek temple and used those columns to make their church. And then when the Islamic force came through, they tore down the church and used those same columns to build the mosque. And that's the first mosque that they know was done in the square pattern with the open center. But you just see how they're recycling all of those things through time. It was really impressive to see.
Repurposing, right? Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, reduce, reuse, recycle. They were the original green folks. Yeah. But it's like even the fact that how did they move that stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how horse and cart. Campbell.
I can barely get bags of fertilizer in the back of my truck from the Home Depot. These guys are moving 20,000-pound columns,
right?
And like setting them perfectly in line, standing them up, and they've been there for thousands of years. Yeah.
So, speaking of camels, that was my first like interaction, non-zoo camel. Very disgusting smelling animal.
They're mean too.
They are mean. Yeah. Spit, chew, bite, kick, and then just sit down. I'm done for today. I'm just going to sit down.
Yeah, they're weird to get on too, because I mean, most Americans have been on a horse, and so you hop on it, and then when you get on a camel and the thing stands up, you think you're going to like go ass over tea kettle over the head. Yeah, and then they rock back, then you think you're going to go over the backside. It's interesting, and then you're up that high without a helmet on, and I've been around plenty of horses and seen plenty of injuries, and you're there, and everybody's like, you don't need a helmet. I'm like, I don't know, man, I'm pretty freaked out right now.
Yeah, I didn't get on it. I couldn't get past the odor, and I didn't want to ride in the bus. It's like a 2-hour bus ride back to the tent city base we were in. I just didn't want to smell like that on the way back. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Nah. So, what are your thoughts on the sibling rivalry between the different branches? And we brought up the Go Army beat Navy and Army beating the Air Force in football this year. What do you think about? What are your thoughts on the sibling rivalry between us?
I think it's always interesting how people just like hold that, and it doesn't matter, because I mean, it was funny. I was getting on a plane like 2 weeks ago, and I saw a guy wearing a Naval Academy like sweatshirt on there, and I think I had like a pin on my lapel from the regiment, and just walking through, and he's sitting in first class, and I just lean over and like, hey man, what's up? And he takes his headphones off. You know that awkward thing where people sitting in first class don't want to look at everybody who's walking by to get into like the main section. He takes it and is like, hey man, go Army, beat Navy. Like, this stuff never ends. It just it never ends. Each branch suffers in their own way, except for the Air Force, which they really don't suffer too much.
You can't even make an acronym because it's too long.
Yeah. But in the end, I think everybody feels sorry for the Marines. I mean, they are the stepchild. The poor guys, I mean, they get like the worst gear, the worst missions. They get stuck on a boat with all the Navy dudes bobbing around the ocean. Yeah, right? But I got a tremendous amount of respect for the Marines, and as much as the rivalry is fun, it just gives us something to do to talk shit to one another, which I think all of the uniformly the branches really enjoy talking shit to one another.
Oh yeah,
but everybody's got their own suck, except for the Air Force. Yeah,
I mean, we did have to eat MREs every once in a while.
Did you get over that years of counseling? You guys go to group therapy for that?
We did. Yeah, we did. I mean, in 97, we were eating MREs from 1988. I mean, the M&Ms had already faded. I mean, there was no color on the hard candy shell. I mean, these are the things that we suffer.
It sounds traumatic. Yeah. Meanwhile, guys in Ranger School are licking the pudding, out of the when you make you get the hot chocolate they would serve you, and then you pour the creamer and the sugar in there, and you stir it up, and you make yourself a little pudding, and you're eating that, and then you're like peeling the thing apart and licking it. Yeah, just get all the calories out of it. Yeah.
I think it's healthy, and I don't mind. I mean, I get all of the chair force jokes and all the postmaster general jokes, and I think it's funny. I go along with it, and I just remember, as you said, when everybody else was in fighting holes eating crickets and worms, I had a very hot runny egg meal, but it was still hot eggs.
I served alongside a lot of, because I was an artillery dude controlling aircraft, so we actually served with a lot of Air Force guys, and to this day, some of my best friends are still Air Force dudes, and I like them because they think a little bit differently. When the Army guys are like, hey, let's go do it this way, the Air Force guy goes, man, it'd be a lot smarter if we did it that way.
Yeah.
And everybody looks at the Air Force guy like, he's Air Force, you can't listen to him. Meanwhile, in the back of your head, everybody goes, yeah. In the long run, we ended up doing it that way. So I'm thankful for the Air Force bringing a little bit of common sense every now and then to the fight.
Yeah, I think again, I think it's healthy. Everybody has their role. We're all on the same team, different missions, and I'm proud of those guys that and girls that did the other jobs, so I didn't have to. They were better suited for it than what I was. So, all the utmost respect for the other branches, including the Coasties.
Yeah, the funny part is the one thing that I really wanted to do is I wanted to go to the Coast Guard Academy, and I got accepted in along with the United States Military Academy at West Point. And I was a wrestler, so when you're in Iowa and you're wrestling, you're in the gym at 5 a.m. when it's dark. You come out at 6 p.m. when it's dark, so you don't really see sunlight all winter. And they stuck me in a room for my physical to do the color blindness test, and they flipped on all the lights and they turned on the timer, and my eyes couldn't adjust fast enough to go through the color blindness test. So they told me I was colorblind, and I believed that I was colorblind because for like years, because I failed that test.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean I can't see green? I know I can see green. The grass is green right there. Well, the test says, like, this is the stupid stuff the military convinces you of.
It's teal. It's not green. It's teal.
Yeah. But if I were to do it all over again, like I remember it's my third deployment to Afghanistan, and we were working with the pararescuemen, so the PJs. Mm-hmm. And I made friends with a combat rescue officer because we were doing some mission planning together. And he's like, "Hey man, let's just go over to my hooch and we'll just sit down and chat it out there." And I walk into their hooch, and you can imagine we're living in plywood huts. All the Army guys are on like the old green military bunks. Some guys had brought like some little mats to put down on them to make them more comfortable. But we're living on these green bunks for months on end. And then we walk into the Air Force hooch, and I'm like, what magical place did I just walk into? What? I mean, full stereos, nice computers, big lounge chairs, couches. Like, how did you guys get all this stuff here? How is this possible?
Yeah, the power of the supply sergeants.
Yeah. Had I done it all over again, I think I would have gone Air Force Pararescue. Still get to do all the cool stuff, and they got a really cool mission. I like those dudes.
Yeah, those guys are BAs.
Yeah, they are. My personal hero is a guy named Roger Sparks. He's a pararescueman out of the 212. Should have won the Medal of Honor twice over, but he's got such a I'm going to try to say it as respectfully as possible, but just an irreverent attitude that I think they downgraded him to a Silver Star, but he should have won the Medal of Honor twice over. Yeah.
I'll have to look him up. I haven't heard of him.
His story is like unbelievable. 11 years ago, it was called Operation Bulldog Bite. They were in the same area which I served in Eastern Afghanistan, and they responded to a unit that they were getting decimated pretty hard, and came in on the cable. He had 6 bullet holes through his top. The guy's 6'7". He was so big they couldn't give him the cool guy multicam, so he was using that weird, like, loud Air Force blue camouflage.
Okay.
And sorry, here let me kick this off here.
So real quick, while Griff is down there doing whatever it is he's doing, we'll do the show's sponsor plug. So attention, veteran business owners. Do you want an easier way to be certified as a veteran-owned business? Do you want a better way to show it off in the same hard-charging fashion as our old unit patches? Want an easier way to be found? Get more business write-ups, more interviews, more social media promotion, and more? Jump over to avboa.net. Use code KNOCK6, that's KNOCK, KNOCK6, to get your digital badge today. Now, back to Griff.
My plant light just turned on.
Oh.
So he had 6 bullet holes through his top, and his top is framed in their pararescue section. Like 7 bullets hit the cable. Nothing hit him. Him and his combat rescue officer came down. They could have like waved off, and they could have gotten pulled away on the cable, but he like let go and waved them off. They went Winchester, which means empty on ammo, on 4 50 cals on the Seesaw birds, 4 AH-64s, 2 A-10s. And then their final bomb they dropped was 200 feet from their position. It was a 2,000-pound bomb from a F-16. So on the systems that you were like controlling, making sure those ordnance were pickling right. And, things moving at, if you look at the physics of it, a 2,000-pound bomb moving 400 miles an hour, landing within 200 feet of your position, that's pretty dicey. So they're calling in the last 4 of their social security number, but they did that so they could jump over a berm and haul guys more back. And so him and his combat rescue officer fought on the ground for over 10 hours
Wow.
saving these dudes by themselves. A really, really badass story. And if you guys are listening to this, look up Roger Sparks, Bulldog Bite, pararescueman out of 212th. And his story is phenomenal. And he's just got a really good attitude now. You can find him. He's a tattoo artist up in Alaska. Because when they came back from this mission, he's walking across the tarmac. And there's a line I get from him of weird knows weird. And he's 6'7". He sees this little guy like walking across the airfield and he's like, that guy's weird. What are you doing? And he's a world famous tattoo artist named Scott Campbell. And so Roger starts talking to him and goes, hey, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I'm doing a story about how tattoos affect different cultures around the world. And I'm here in Afghanistan to talk about, tattoos and warriors. And one of the pararescuemen, a guy named Jimmy Settle that was on that mission, that didn't actually make it to the ground. A bullet came up through the bottom of the helicopter off the front of his body armor, hit him right in the front of the skull, and then tumbled around inside of his helmet and landed in the back of his body armor, knocked him out. So he never made it to the ground. And Jimmy goes walking by with a bandage on his head. He's like, oh, yeah, that guy got shot in the head yesterday. And Jimmy's like, hey, man, what's up? And so they go into the pararescueman section and, here they're like literally washing blood out of the bottom of the helicopter. And Scott's walking by and he walks into the section and here's everybody after this tremendously heroic mission, just kind of decompressing and going through all the trauma and the struggle that goes with that. And Scott looks at me, he's like, I'm not eating. I'm not sleeping. I'm tattooing you guys for the next 3 days straight. Wow. And so he sat in that pararescue section in Kabul, Afghanistan, Bagram, Afghanistan, tattooing these guys with tattoos. So Jimmy, the guy that got shot in the head, has got a Cheshire cat on his forearm wearing a red PJ beret, smoking a joint with 7 out of the 9 lives scratched out on it.
Nice.
Yeah. So Jimmy's actually got a book too, Never Quit. So you can check him out. Yeah. We're just really good dudes, but odd stories that happen downrange. Everybody's getting tattoos. So Roger and Scott made really good friends, and Scott became his tattoo mentor. So now Roger runs a tattoo shop in Alaska called Cathartic Ink. You should follow them on Instagram.
Yes,
they're amazing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now I have another reason to plan a trip to Alaska. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's actually written down here on this piece of paper. So thank you for that.
No worries, man.
Yeah. The only PJ that I met in person was a PJ washout, who washed out during tech school and ended up in our electronics class. And he wore the PJ haircut all the way through tech school, even though he was no longer a PJ. And I always thought that was weird and cool and a little sad at the same time.
Anything is better than the Ranger haircut. Back when I was in, before we could grow long hair, we had this. You know what to do with the rest? That stupid little haircut we had to wear. It was like this.
Yeah.
And everybody tries to be, operational security. Don't tell people where you're going. Don't do this, don't do that. So here are a bunch of like heavily muscled, like large thighed guys come in with these stupid haircuts that nobody else in the world would wear except for the Rangers. I'm like, oh yeah, the Rangers are here. Yeah.
I'd never met a PJ before, this guy. So I don't know if this was just him telling us this or if this was really what they were supposed. They had the high and tight, but this clump of hair right here that was longer and that could be combed
over. Yeah.
He looked ridiculous. But anyway, that's the only PJ I ever met. He was an ass. But I think that was part of what he had to learn to be during whatever time he was there.
I mean, you find fun ways to make fun of it. Another one of my PJ buddies, a guy named Brock Blankenship. He's a doctor now, a really good dude, but he got in a little bit of trouble and they made him move all the sand from one side of the volleyball court to the other. So in the process of doing that, he makes a gigantic pair of tits on like one side of the volleyball. I mean, like artistic, just gorgeous pair of boobs out of the sand, built sand boobs.
Nice.
Got to find ways to make it fun, right?
Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. I spent my fair share of time sweeping the desert. And I always had that line from Spaceballs in my head the whole time. I just kept saying it every time, almost every stroke.
We ain't found shit.
Yeah. I was the first airman in my unit, the first one in like 2 years. So I got all of the fun grunt work, cleaning latrines and sweeping the desert, washing rocks, painting grass, anytime there was a 1-star visit or something like that. So yeah. I didn't do Tetons though. I probably should have, looking back. That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah. I always love the line. I teach my kids this, and everybody knows this in the military is if you're bored, just start cleaning. Because if you're cleaning, people will just leave you alone.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Look busy. And then out of sight, out of mind. So if you don't have anything to do, don't be seen not doing anything. Yeah. I got my list of questions here. What's your favorite practical joke that you played, whether it was at West Point or Ranger School or Artillery School or Downrange?
So this was one after service, which is oddly enough how I got introduced to Roger and Jimmy. But I was working for this company. It was after my time in service, but I did bring in some military contractors on this one. So I worked for this company called Remote Medical International, and we had our annual meeting, which is usually up in the mountains in the Cascades up here in a beautiful lodge, and there's a hot tub, and everybody's drinking beer and having a good time. And I actually had to go to a meeting in Dubai for like 72 hours. So I had to leave the company meeting before all the fun started. I had to get in an airplane, fly from Seattle to Paris to Dubai, have a meeting, and then fly back. And when I got back, I found out they'd painted my office pink and put like unicorns and butterflies, little stickers, like not stickers, like stenciled out and painted on my wall. So I couldn't get them off them. My entire office was like that. So I just put like little cutouts of missiles, and I put it on the side of the butterflies, and
there you go,
guns on the unicorn. Nice. And I kept that office. I had that office until I left. I never repainted it. So people would walk into my office and they would see this, like, what's going on? I'm like, whatever. So then I waited, and hopefully nobody in this, like, I think everybody there worked at the company there has left since, but so I waited like a year after I left the company. Okay. And I still had some friends there. And so I was like, oh yeah, I got to drop so-and-so off by the office. Give me your door code. All right. So I cruised by there, and they make these little magnets. They're called, and then with a little, so Jimmy, the pararescue got shot in the head. He was known as a practical joker, and he's like the best practical joker. So I called him up, and I'm like, hey man, I will pay you to run a practical joke on this. And he had some other stuff going on in his life, and he's like, I can't do it myself, but here's my operational plan.
Okay.
And there's these little, and they're like a little bit bigger than a stick of gum, but they make a little sound, a random sound, like every 3 to 5 minutes. It goes beep. So I bought like 50 of those things. Oh. And I snuck into the office, and the people that I liked, I kind of hid them in areas where they could find it. But other than that, it was like unscrewing the heater vents, like hucking them down as far as we could, in between walls, behind whiteboards, small slice in the bottom of the couch, like throwing it in there, and then lifting the couch and get it all the way to the other side. File folders, dumping them in there. We drove people in that office nuts until those batteries went out about a year later. Like, paint my office pink.
Priceless.
Fuck around, find out. Yeah.
That's right. Find out. that is, I'm taking like show notes here. So yeah, that is great.
The other one that the guys did to me was you have your lockers in your office. And so we had our fire support office. So it was just my team sergeant and myself had the lockers there. Everybody else had the lockers in the room. And I made the mistake when I first got there, being from where I'm from in Iowa and at the academy, nobody steals shit. You don't worry about it. So I left my locker unlocked, and I came back, 2 hours later after going to some briefing, and I go to slide on my motorcycle jacket, because I was into motorcycles on the way home, and like I'm pulling out gay porn like out of my freaking motorcycle jacket. And then I like go to reach into my pockets, and there's more gay porn. I go to throw on my gloves, and there's like a little naked dude like shoved down in like my index finger of my glove. I got to turn my glove inside out to get it out. Like for months, I was finding gay porn all through my stuff. And I'm like, guys, like this is a clever joke, but is there something you're not telling me? Something I should be aware of? Like, how would you guys find all this that fast?
Right. Yes. I would assume there was no volunteers on the answer to that question.
None whatsoever. Yeah.
So on one of our return trips, actually, I didn't go on one. I stayed back to support the squadron stateside. My friend at the time was coming back, and he let me borrow his truck while he was gone to, like, turn the tires, get the fluids going through so there weren't bald spots, and it'd start when he needed it when he got home a couple months later. So on the front license plate of his truck, I had a license plate made with a rainbow, and it said, "I'm super gay and I am so proud," and I put that on his front bumper. And it was literally weeks later before he walked to the front of his truck, and so he'd been coming in and out of the base gate every day for work when he got home, and he was livid. Livid.
Nobody said anything to him?
Nope. No. When they saw it, he was wondering why people were like looking, doing the double take, and then laughing, because this was still back when Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and and he drove that truck for weeks before he saw it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, like and it wasn't. I'd put the safety screws on, so you had to go underneath the backside of the bumper with an open end wrench to get it off, because you couldn't just use a screwdriver. I mean, it was, and I super glued it. So,
attaboy.
Yeah, that was probably one of my best ones.
Yeah. It's funny, they're all flooding back into me now, like all the dumb stuff we did to one another. But
hey, send another one downrange.
So when I first got to the Army, you're in a conventional unit first before you can go to special operations. And my first conventional unit, we were the first Striker unit in the Army. If you guys know the Striker vehicle, the big 8x8 vehicle that came out in 2002.
Okay.
But we had the first 4 in the Army. My company did. And so we went down to NTC, the National Training Center, and in Southern California to do our testing and evaluation with the machines. And we're going out on our first mission, and I was riding with the battalion commander for that mission, and the intel officer hops in the back, and this young Kubarulis was his name, this little Greek kid, and we all hop in, and I do like, all right, guys, everybody because the colonel was standing up out of the top doing his colonel thing, and I was like, all right, everybody put your helmets on backwards, because we were wearing the Miles gear with a big battery pack on it.
Okay.
And so we all turned our helmets around backwards. And the intel officer hops in there like, hey, man, you got to turn your helmet around backwards. The battery will smash the radios, and then we'll be down for the count. And so he's like, oh, yeah, makes sense. And he turns his freaking helmet around backwards, loads in his whiteboard with all of his sticky notes all over it and stuff. And then, we shut the doors. It gets dark, and we start rolling out our nightly mission. So all of us turn our helmets around, and then we're on comms with the colonel, and we get taken off, and half his sticky notes go off the whiteboard. That was super bad decision on his behalf. And I'm like, hey, sir, you got to get down here and check out your intel officer. I think something's wrong with him. The colonel pokes down and sees him wearing his helmet backwards and picking shit up all over the back. And he's standing there freaked out. Yeah. And he just looks at us, and we're just dying laughing. And he just shakes his head and doesn't say anything the entire mission. We let him run for 8 hours with his helmet on backwards. And we finally open the door to the Striker. We get out in the morning, and he's staring at us, and we're just dying laughing. It's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh gosh. If we didn't like each other, we wouldn't do these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if we didn't like somebody, what we would do.
Yeah. Then they just crap in your rucksack. That's what they do.
That's awful.
Yeah.
That's awful. So, off the wall question for you.
Send it.
But yeah, something put your thinking cap on. If Hollywood was to make a movie about you, who would you want to play your role versus who do you think would be the best person in Hollywood to play your role?
I get the Matthew McConaughey a lot.
Okay, all
Yeah, but I think Ryan Reynolds, I think would be a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, just for the irreverence.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
Knowing 53 minutes now into this, getting your personality, I could see Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I just watched that Red Notice with him and The Rock, and it's funny. He just plays the same role over and over and over again. It's getting kind of tiring. Him and The Rock, and like he had that. The Rock's always got to have his monster jumping from one thing to another. He had that. I was glad they didn't miss that in this movie where he had his good rock jump.
Is that rock jump in what's this latest Fast and Furious 27, 28? Does he do that? And
I don't know. I know there's a jump in there somewhere.
How do you keep this franchise going? I stopped watching after Fast and Furious 1.
Yeah, everybody wants to see him on the big screen, and then so now I just watch him when I'm on planes when I need a little mindless entertainment. That's about it. But then you can watch, on somebody else's screen the movie and not hear it, and it's basically stuff you can never do with the vehicle. Him, Vin Diesel, all the other guys.
Right. Yeah. So, Die Hard. Right. I loved Die Hard 1 and 2. 3 was okay, and then he goes from just being a regular Joe cop to riding motorcycles and jumping them into planes like a Deadpool. I think at some point in time, let the franchise end, let it die, come up with something else. I don't know. What do you think about that?
They just make so much money doing it. Yeah, actually, I'm going through I'm doing a master's program right now for film and production.
Okay.
And you just see the math on how many remakes they make because people are comfortable with storylines and mantras, and it's just so easy. That's why Marvel does it. That's why Disney does it. That's why Fast and the Furious does it. It's because we've just become comfortable. It's something new. We expect it. We expect to be entertained. The actors are good. They're not going to let it die, and they just make so much money because we keep falling for the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, like the McRib, right? I mean, that's why McDonald's does the limited run, because they make more money during that whatever campaign, however long that is, than they do the rest of the year without it on the menu. But I learned this in business school. They make so much money during that campaign that it holds them over till the next time they run it. But they only do that because the scarcity drives up the desire. It's an awful sandwich. I don't know if you.
My stomach just turned a little bit.
It's an awful sandwich. I ate it one time in the 90s and was sick for a month.
Yeah, I haven't had a McRib since the 90s.
Yeah.
Just dating ourselves here.
Yeah, it's gross. Well, as a supervisor, what's the funniest thing you ever had to discipline somebody for, besides the oranges in your slingshot?
Man, I'm gonna have to take a mulligan on that one. I'll think about it and get back to you on that one.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. Any good jokes with any of your newbies? Any of
within the newbies?
Yeah, the noobs coming to the unit. Any I don't want to use the word hazing because that has a negative connotation, but any welcome to the show kind of fun games and pranks.
The atomic sit-up never gets old.
Okay, explain.
The atomic sit-up is where you get some, young muscle-bound alpha male thinks they're better than everybody, and I bet you can't do an atomic sit-up. And then so then you'll sit somebody down, and then you'll hold their feet down, you put a towel over their face, and okay, do a sit-up. And the guy on the ground's like, I can't do it. And then the new guy goes, I could do it. And so you set him down on the ground, you pump them all up, high fives, get everything. And then, they put the towel over his face, and then somebody hops over his face and they drop trowels. So that way you get the mix of the butthole, the grundle, and the testicles all hanging about 2 inches over his face. And then you just put really hard, and then quick, they pull the towel out and he just smashes right into it with his face. That's always the good one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. And I can see where that's quite humbling for that alpha male.
Yeah. And this one we got on YouTube. It's somewhere. I'll have to send you a link. But we got one of our guys, Noger, on a Go to Atomic sit up, and he was big, thick, burly dude, and he was into it, and he committed fully, and he got all of it.
He got all of it. Oh God, that's awesome. Yeah. That's probably the funniest thing I've heard in a long time.
Yeah. Well, the Atomic it's a classic.
It is a classic. I mean, it's
tried and true.
So, I don't know where I would be able to use such, but I will find a way in life to use the Atomic sit-up.
Man, you get in trouble for that now, though. And people like lose their minds over everything.
That is true.
They took all the fun out of everything.
That is true.
Yeah.
I'll still find a way.
Yeah.
Where there's a will.
Right? Where there's a will. Yeah.
Isn't that what they say? Well, anything for me that you got?
Dude, yeah, I just and it's just constant. Like all the memories pour back in. We've all been bumped in the head a lot. I think the one that I remember the most, it's always the funniest for me when you talked about it, is we came off this helicopter fast roped in, and then the guys were hitting the objective. We were held about 50 meters back, and we held up in this paddock. And I turned around, and my medic, Merwin, was like 6'7", big, tall dude. And I just hear him start like fussing and fighting. I turn around, and here's this donkey with a big old erection, like trying to mount him, like in the middle of the night. He's fighting off this like tiny little donkey with like this 8-foot dong hanging out, like trying to get him. And like, we're literally getting it on this objective. And the commander, the RTO, myself, we all turned around and we're watching our medic fight off this donkey, try to molest him. Like, it's probably about like the when you first called me about this and funny stories. That's always the one that sticks out in my mind, is like this donkey just wanted Merwin in the worst way. Yeah.
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
I imagine he earned a nickname for that.
No, not at all. It's just dumb stuff that you see is what it is. All right. It happens to be what it is. So it just
wow, it's still hysterical.
Yeah, nobody makes fun of the medic too much because you want him to take care of you. Yeah, if you do get blasted, so you don't want to be the guy that he triages at the end because you made fun of him so hard.
Yeah, that is a very valid and fair point. I appreciate you bringing that up. Well, tell us more about Combat Flipflops. Where the mission is going now, and how people can find you.
Yeah, so the mission for us primarily has been putting little girls to school in Afghanistan, and people, a lot of people freak out, especially veterans. Like, why do you guys do that? And it's like, why are you helping them? Why are you not helping veterans at home? And it's like, pump the brakes, homie. We do help veterans here at home. I don't know how many veteran charities like we've helped in the 10 years of doing business. But if we don't want our guys to keep going to these areas, our belief is that women's empowerment. The reason why there's so many terrorists is because women can't support their kids because they go out on the street. They get recruited by radical organizations, very much like gangs here in America.
Right.
And then, then we're fighting them. So if we want to end that, we should just educate women, because educated mothers raise educated families. Educated families are harder to radicalize. It's just long play. It's not sexy. You're not going to find Hollywood movies about it because it would be long and boring and over 10 years. And it's, teaching a little girl how to read is just not going to make as much money as Vin Diesel jumping a Dodge Charger off some sort of skyscraper, right? It's just It's not going to.
Right.
But with the Afghan situation over the past few months, it's been really heartfelt by us. So we've been helping like our school teachers and our families and our folks, getting them clothing, getting them food, getting them money, trying to work, helping them, get them out of the country. And it's been really, really debilitating, to be honest. The ineptitude by the United States State Department has been soul crushing. Like, I haven't liked them for years, and now it's just solidified that the best line that I heard about U.S. foreign policy led by state over the last couple of months is, it starts with a lie and it ends in failure. And for some reason, we just keep believing the guys behind the podium and the pulpits and just letting them waste our billions and trillions of tax dollars behind a historically failing policy. And at some point in time, like, I hope the American people wake up and hold them accountable. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, one day.
Fingers crossed. So right now, we're just really focused on, like, I'm doing book signings. 100% of our profits from those go toward helping Afghan refugees. We've been selling a couple T-shirts on our website that your profits are going to support that. But mainly right now, we're going to be retooling it at home. There's a Venn diagram that I have in my journal, which I've been following for a while.
Cool.
But it looks like that. One side is what matters. The other side is what you can control. And in the center where they overlap is where you need to focus. And right now we're going to be refocusing at home, or we're going to be helping more veterans here at home.
Okay.
So we lost our manufacturing base in Afghanistan, which sucks. We worked with 2 factories there, employing about 200 people. And, right now they're out of work. It's tough. And it's just been a challenge all the way around. That's all I can say about it. It's just been difficult. But so now we're working to support them whichever way we can, and we're going to be doing more veteran focused charities at home. There's a specific charity which we haven't released yet on the West Coast here, which is great. It's helping amputee veterans. We like their mission. They're really cool dudes. So we're going to be shifting over our focus to help them here at home.
Okay.
But we still make badass flip-flops in Colombia. We still make badass shoes in Colombia. We still make badass jewelry in Laos. We make our T-shirts and our hats and stuff. We print them here in the U.S. So there's plenty of that you can do. And, we have a great team of folks here that we employ directly. We have a 5-person staff, and then we have a lot of contractors around that are all Americans as well too. So again, that line of not creating jobs here at home, and people, complain about us. It's like, the irony of you typing this comment to me on a Chinese made iPhone is not lost, right? It's the guys who ride their Harleys to Walmart, with the American flag behind it, who are giving us a hard time. Like, come on, bro. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're doing that. We're gearing up for the holidays. We're going to have some badass Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales. So if you guys want to check out the website, go forward and do that. We're going to come up with some cool limited run products, and we're just going to drive forward like we always have. And we're just always in the one problem at a time mentality. And we've done it for 10 years. We got a cool company. We have amazing customers, and we're just going to keep doing that.
Awesome. So combatflipflops.com is
combatflipflops.com. Yeah. And if you want to interact with me directly, I'm on Instagram, combatflipflops.griff, Griff.
Okay. Awesome. And I'll have all those down here somewhere. So make it easy for people watching this to jump right over. And again, I'm going to plug, I am a customer. I was a customer long before I reached out to do this interview. They really are, honestly, people, the most comfortable flip-flops I've ever worn. And I personalized them with the badges. Bad for fighting. Well, worse for
bad for running,
worse for fighting. Yeah, I've got that on both. They're awesome. Check them out. Great Christmas present, especially people in the tropics areas that can wear flip-flops year round. It's starting to get a little too cold here in the Atlanta area to sport the flops, but I will until it hits freezing. So, Griff, anything else you want to add before we say adieu?
No, we always just have the mentality of be a better human. And a lot of that comes with humor, and the levity that comes in being in bad moments. Everybody has bad days. And they're usually not bad days. They're bad minutes that turn into bad days. And just when those moments come, just like throw a little humor at it, be better than you were in your response to it, and just go forward and add some positivity and kindness into somebody's life. That shit's free. Sprinkle it everywhere.
There you go. Yeah. To go along with the unicorns in the pink office. There you go, folks. Well, Griff, thanks so much for being a guest here. Episode number 13, Knock&Talk show. Look forward to hopefully doing this again, doing a little checkup, maybe after Christmas to see how things went. And if you ever want to come on before then, we can do episode 26 together. 13 doubles. Anyway. Brother, thank you again. It was an honor and a privilege to have you. Be safe. Take care, folks. We'll see you. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
The Knock&Talk Show is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support. Tune in, share, and subscribe.